Okay, Bill, I think
Recording in progress.
we're live.
Progress. Okay. Oh, thank you.
Yep.
This meeting will come to order. This is a meeting of the Rogue Valley, oh, I got the wrong one, Rogue Valley Transportation District held Wednesday, August 26th at 5:30 p.m. It is a public meeting and it is being recorded. First thing will be the roll call, please.
Paige, are you going to do roll call?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes.
Quiet.
You're pretty quiet, but
Is it quiet? Okay, I'll put my mic up a little bit closer.
there you go. Perfect.
All right. Denise Krause,
Here. Here.
Bill Mansfield,
Here.
Tanya Morrow, Tyler Jasper,
Here.
Katrina Ernman Newton.
Here.
Dan Davis, Carl McNair.
Present.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes depending on the number of individuals wishing to speak. Are there any members in the audience that wish to address us this evening? Seeing none, is there anyone that wishes to address us electronically this evening? None. Hearing none, we'll proceed to the consent agenda. The July 22, 2026 board meeting minutes are under consideration. Are there any changes or objections? Hearing none, I declare that it will be the official meeting minutes. The next item is the November and December meeting dates, and I believe, Madam, we have 2 different dates for both those months.
So in those months, because we fall so close to a holiday, so these are the meeting dates that are being proposed.
And on November 18, in order to avoid conflict with Thanksgiving, and November and December 16, in order to avoid conflict of Christmas. Are there any objections to changing those meeting dates? Hearing none, it will be declared. The next item is the capitalization threshold. Will you tell us what that's about, please?
Sure. So in your board packet, you received a memo from Ms. Wilbur that talked about our procurement manual and our capitalization thresholds, which has always been set at $5,000, which is really not very realistic anymore. And we haven't updated that. And so we're asking for permission to change it to $25,000. At the $5,000 level, there's just a lot of journal entries and paperwork that had to happen because of that. And so they're just finding that they're spending a lot of time on really small items. So they're asking permission to change the procurement manual to be based on 25,000 and our policy.
Thank you. The chair will entertain discussion on the subject.
Could I get just a couple of examples of some of the items that are like more than $5,000 and come up quite a lot?
Debbie, come on up. Be sure and state your name for the record too.
Hmm.
Oh, I was just telling her to state her name for the record.
Oh, got it.
If she can get the microphone to key up. There you go.
Debbie Wilbur, Finance Manager, RVTD. For instance, say we were to buy a server, like a $12,000 server, which gets replaced about every 5 to 7 years. And so really, we have to enter it into the depreciation schedule. We have to depreciate it. We have to do special journal entries because for governmental accounting, you have the modified accrual and then you have the full accrual basis. So you have to change everything from capital outlay to an asset on on the full accrual basis. And so you have to make all these journal entries, and then you have to track it for a piece of equipment, which really is going to be replaced in 5 to 7 years. It's not like a long-term asset. So it's a lot of time. And, it says in the memo, like it says in the memo, the GFOA suggests that you make sure your capitalization threshold is not too low, but also that it covers 80% of your assets that are capitalizable, exceed 1 year useful life. And so, I did a study of all the things we had, and I realized that $25,000 was a good number for us. And most of the districts, most of the governmental entities don't use $5,000. I mean, that's more of like a tax accounting number than, an entity who doesn't have to do tax reporting. And so it's not just that. It's like you could have all kinds of small things, like a piece of furniture, which is going to wear out, in a certain amount of time. All those pieces of furniture we bought technically had to be capitalized, and it's just a bunch of small items, being tracked on the depreciation schedule. And it's rather, at the end of the year, it's a lot of work to track those small items. And then you turn around and they only last, 3 or 5 years, and then you're taking them off the schedule. It's not like a building, which is 40 years, or, our car, vehicle, which is rolling stock, which is always capitalized. So it's just my suggestion to make it easier on the district.
Thank you, Debbie. Are there other comments or questions? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion on the subject.
Sure. I motion to approve the capitalization threshold increase as written by staff.
Further discussion on the motion?
No.
Hearing none, will the chair, will you call the roll on the motion, please?
Yes.
Who is calling roll?
Actually, a
tonight?
consent. This was a consent agenda item, so we actually don't need to
Oh,
have
okay.
a roll call for this, as long as there's a consensus that this is something that we can go ahead and approve.
We'll
We
do it
can
by
move forward.
consensus vote. Those in favor say aye,
Aye.
and I say aye. Those opposed, hearing none, the motion is passed. Next matter is public hearings. I think there are none.
None.
The next matter is presentation by the regarding the bylaws and public meetings law, and I believe that you are, and
So I believe that
Kelly is handling that.
Paige is going to.
Paige, you have the floor.
Yep, thank you. I can speak to this. Paige West, Planning and Strategic Programs Manager and Acting Secretary to the board, which is why I've been working on these bylaws. So we originally presented the public policy law policy for adoption to the board a couple of meetings ago. And when I took this over, I decided to go ahead and look at our bylaws to see if they needed to be updated. They did. They were very old. I also reached out to Special Districts Association of Oregon, SDAO, which is a nonprofit that represents districts around the state. They were the ones who initiated the request to adopt this separate public meetings law policy. And so in my research of the public meetings law, I realized that if we have them referenced within our bylaws, that would take the place of us having this workaround policy, a separate policy that would also need to be adopted. And so since that meeting, we have brought the revised bylaws to the board. We had a couple of small revisions in our last meeting that have been included in the latest bylaws. We've sent those to you in advance of this meeting, and this is showing revised as of August 2026. However, they will be signed and dated as of tonight if they are adopted. With the adoption of the bylaws, we are in conformance with what we needed to do for SDAO. We also updated some things in the bylaws that were more of a housekeeping, run of the show types of way that we actually do our meetings that were different than the way that the bylaws were written years and years ago. And so you all have had an opportunity to go through the redlined bylaws version that was provided to you back in June. We made those revisions, some of those revisions that you asked for at the July meeting, and then sent it out again. And so what we're really asking for tonight is for you to adopt the amended bylaws, and then we will be in conformance with our public meetings law request by SDAO.
Thank you, Paige. I'll ask for a motion first, and then we'll hear discussion on it. May we have a motion, please?
Move adoption of the new bylaws.
Thank you. Discussion?
The one discussion piece I have, Chair, is that in here we state we use Sturgis Standard Code of Parliamentary Procedure. And that is something that RBTD has done from, I think you know, for forever. But we really, a lot of times, fall under, we're actually using Robert's rules. And so something that I just wanted to flag for the board was maybe we want to change that call out in the bylaws and change it to Robert's Rules of Order. It may make it easier for this board sometimes because you don't, then we would have to have a second motion, which is a little bit different than Sturgis, but we seem to do it anyway. So I just wanted to point that piece out to you.
What page is
Thank
that
you,
on?
Julie.
That was on page 4.
Any other comments? If not, I have some comments. On page 4, section 6, committees, I don't think it's a very serious problem, but I always think it's a mistake to tie ourselves down to those kind of specifics. What would happen, for example, if we decided to have a committee and violated this? Somebody might attack us on it. So I think it's smarter not to include that kind of thing and simply have the decision made from time to time rather than bind ourselves down. That's one comment I have. The other comment has to do with page 7, 15. Amendments to the bylaws or modifications may be made to the organization's the structure of the board or to these these bylaws by a majority vote. Well, I think the only way that bylaws can be changed would be by a majority vote, and certainly not by the organizational structure of the board. So my suggestion would be to eliminate the words to the organizational structure of the board. I presume that means some committee or somebody that's designated, but that's and if it is so, it's an inappropriate designation.
If I may just make a comment, your second amendment to section 15 would be absolutely fine. There is a section for the subcommittees in the public meetings law. Because they are a subcommittee to the board, they also have to adhere to public meetings law. And so I'm just making sure that we are, although we can look at omitting how committees are formed, I want to make sure that we will still have subcommittees adhering to the public meetings law.
The trouble with all of that is when you start specifying these things, then you're bound by it. And if you don't follow it exactly, you might be in trouble. That's the same problem I have with trying to lay out the details of the public meetings law. Of course, we're bound by the public meetings law, but there are two problems with specifying it. One is that it wastes paper, and the second, more important concern is that the legislature changes these laws from time to time. So if they did, we'd be in a bind if we hadn't followed up and changed it to meet it. So I don't think those things should be specified, but I can tell I probably am in the minority on that. So I'm not going to stand in the way of a vote. Are there any other suggestions?
I just have more of a question.
Chair Morrow had me add this as amended in parentheses after the reference to the public meetings law. She, in that forethought of they're going to change it, we shouldn't have to amend our bylaws every time they change it. This will cover that any amendments that are made to the public meetings law, as with it saying as amended, basically meaning as to the most current version of the public meetings law. So this will maintain as an updated reference.
Thank you for that help. Dealing now with Julie's suggestion about Robert's Rules of Order, does the board have some thoughts on that? If so, sounds like we need to make some amendments at this point or refer it to the next meeting.
Before we go on to that point, I just have a question, thinking about this section on committees in 6. Are there any pieces of this that are, in your view, Paige, particularly important to include, or in your view, Bill, particularly unnecessary?
Right, and well, in my view, it's inappropriate to include those things
Are you,
because they are the rule anyhow.
are you talking about the whole section
The
6?
section.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like
That-
one particular.
That's my philosophy, but I know that almost every organization I've ever belonged to disagrees with me. So
Okay, I just wanted to hear, I was like, somebody put them in there, and I can tell Bill doesn't want them in here. Is it for a particular piece, or is it for the whole kit and caboodle? Sounds like it's for the whole thing from your perspective.
my belief does not direct the board necessarily.
No, but I think I agree with you. So don't assume that I don't agree with you.
Yeah. Wanted to know more about it, and also because I just wanted to make sure. I was like, are there any pieces of this that are in addition to, or that are important to call out, that would be in addition to the public meeting laws, that are rules about how we as a board organize our subcommittees? Like this 3 representatives thing, is that from public law, or is that just us and how we like it? And I'm wondering if that it would be a useful distinction to make in what to include.
So I can respond to that. This section is from the original bylaws of the RVTD Board of Directors. This section 6. It has not been revised since the original version. The public meetings law doesn't cover what you would consider as the formation of subcommittees. It would govern how those committees should be open and accessible to the public.
Right.
And so what would probably have the authority for the board to provide the committee formation would be the special districts ORS language. But I'm not, at the top of my head, I'm not that familiar with what our ORS language says, which is a completely different section of Oregon statutes. So I think that it would be important to still have something in here that allows for you to have the authority to create committees, because this is a completely separate section than the public meetings law. It is giving you the authority to make a
The
committee.
board has the intrinsic power to form committees in their own form, whatever form they wish, subject to the restrictions that you've put in here. Whether or not you say it, you don't have to put it into your bylaws in order to have the intrinsic authority to create any committee that you wish. And the public meetings law requires those both committees and subcommittees to be open to the public. So I don't know why we need to put it in here. I don't know why we're running through all of this when it's true anyhow.
But wouldn't you say that A, though, makes it so the board doesn't have the power to do that? It's just the
I
chair.
think you're limiting yourself away from you might sometime want to have a committee that has 4 people, for example. And I don't know why you want to restrict yourself to have to follow this binding kind of rule. Why not just do it each time a committee is appointed? It seems to me the smarter way to go. So I respectfully disagree with with our worthy assistant.
These rules would not restrict us from having 4. It says not less than 3 representatives, so it's giving.
Oh, I guess that's a
not
good
the
point.
maximum.
That's a good point, but philosophically, I don't agree with the idea that we have to specify it at all. All of those powers are intrinsic within the board's power. They don't have to be specified.
Yeah, this gives the power to the chair specifically
Well, the
to,
chair doesn't have the full power to do anything. It's subject to the approval of the board. Chair has no power,
That's not in here,
no final power for any of these things.
unless it's written like it's written,
Unless it's written like it's written, yes.
right?
Like,
yeah.
I guess my question at this point is, are we ready to enact this proposed draft, or do we need to make motions to amend, or and as a third option, do we need to refer it to another meeting?
I think that Paige said that this came from a long time ago and it's not a change, but this is the whole exercise that we're doing is to make it better and to bring it up to date and an opportunity to fix it. And I agree that it's too binding with you, so I would lean towards mending it.
Are you willing to make a motion then?
Yeah. I'll make a motion that we amend section 6
To eliminate
to eliminate
section 6?
Yeah, to eliminate it, at least A, or the whole section altogether. But I think that A is too binding.
I'd be fine with this section if we just modified A to the board may appoint representatives for subcommittees. That's the only issue I have with this entire section.
So would you restate your motion, please, Denise?
Yeah, I'd like to amend the bylaws section 6A to say the board may appoint representatives for subcommittees of which they shall be an ex officio member.
Are there any further discussions?
We might need to wordsmith that just a little bit since we have the of which they shall be an ex officio member.
Oh,
We need to cross that out since we're not referring to a specific individual anymore. With a chair, we're being removed. So the language.
The chair can always appoint herself as an ex officio member. It's not required to be in here.
Oh, no, I agree. Since we took out the words chair of the statement would read as currently, the board may appoint representatives for subcommittees of which they shall be an ex officio member. I don't know if that implies that the entire board is now subject to being part of this committee, or we could just take out the words of which they shall be an ex officio member and just leave it as the board may appoint representatives for subcommittees, period.
Oh, once again, my suggestion is that's totally unnecessary because you have the power to do that anyhow. But if you want to lard it up with a bunch of language, there's no crime. It's not a terrible thing to do.
You could just take out.
I would like to make a new amendment.
You want to withdraw your?
I want to withdraw my earlier amendment,
Very
yes,
well.
please. And I'd like to make a motion to amend 6A to remove it completely.
We don't need a second. Is there discussion on the motion to amend? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Okay, I'm sorry, I wanted to share the Word document that I have. So we are removing this entire section.
Just 6.
Just 6A.
Say,
Oh, just 6A, okay.
So the motion to amend is to remove 6A. I've heard no discussion, no debate on the matter, so I'm asking that whoever is calling the roll to call the roll, please.
I can do that. Okay. Denise Kraus,
Yes.
Bill Mansfield,
Yes.
Tyler Jasper,
Yes.
Katrina Ernman Newton,
yep.
And Carl McNair.
Yes.
The motion to amend passes unanimously. Is there further discussion on the motion, on the original motion to enact this provision as amended?
Returning to the Sturgis Standard Code of Parliamentary Procedure note in section 4B.
Or B?
Yes. Would it make sense to just add an or Robert's Rules of Order here that basically, or does it need to be laid out as one, or do we want to just strike it because,
I think you should be really clear which one you're going to use.
okay.
So is there a motion to be made on sections 4B?
Well, I have some discussion.
Yes?
So I guess I personally am more familiar with the Roberts Rules of Order because I think that's the more typical rules for a board like this to use. And a lot of city boards use it and other groups, other public groups. So I don't know. I guess just my familiarity is probably not the reason to change it, but I guess, but providing consistency with how other boards operate probably makes it easier for people who are serving on other boards to come into this board and pick up without having to learn the new rules of order. So to me, I agree that the Roberts Rules of Order probably make more sense. Does anybody on the board here tonight really feel that the Sturgis rules are serving us better?
Further discussion?
I'm not sure anyone on the board tonight can tell you what exactly the Sturgis rules are. So I'm happy to switch to Roberts for ease of use and familiarity. And if we ever find it stifling in some way, we can look up Sturgis and switch to that if we so please.
Now, these
Okay,
are
so-
always, this is always amendable. Is there further discussion? Further discussion? Then the chair would entertain a motion to amend in light of the discussion 4B to provide that the completion of the agenda's business will be pursuant to Robert's Rules of Order, period.
So moved.
Is there discussion on the motion to amend? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Denise Kraus,
Yes.
Bill Mansfield,
Yes?
Tyler Jasper,
Yes.
Katrina Newton,
Yes.
and Carl McNair.
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any further amendments or discussions concerning the original motion as amended? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Denise Kraus,
Wait, hold on.
We talked about section 15. I just wanted to make sure we didn't forget that. The
Oh.
board can do whatever they want with it, but you had recommended that the words to the organizational structure of the board be omitted.
Thank you for recalling that. That subject will be before the board. Does the board have any comments on my suggestion?
I have a question about your suggestion. If we can't modify the organization or if we're not spelling out that we can modify the organization in our bylaws, is it an assumed intrinsic power of the board, or is it something that needs to be outlined elsewhere?
My problem is that this language as presently existing erroneously gives someone other than the board the power to amend the bylaws. I think it's just simply an error and should be removed. My suggestion would be to move to eliminate may be made to the organizational structure of the board.
Okay.
eliminating that phrase will cover my problem.
Okay. So to make sure that I've heard everything correctly, it would, section 15 would read, if modified, amendments dash adjustments or modifications to these bylaws may be made by a majority of all the board members present and voting at regularly scheduled meeting.
Precisely.
Okay,
Are you making that motion?
I so move.
Is there discussion on the motion to amend? Hearing none, would you call the roll?
Question on it.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Amending the organizational structure of the board, is that something the board actually has the power to do? Is that's written into some sort of law that created RVTD, correct?
I don't even know what it means. I don't know what organizational structure of the board means. Whatever it means, it's inaccurate because only the board has the power to amend its bylaws.
Okay.
By taking that piece out, you're only amending your bylaws.
You just
Correct.
just correcting your bylaws is all you're doing.
Cool.
Okay, I'm good.
So is there further discussion on the motion to amend? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Denise Kraus,
Yes.
Bill Mansfield,
Yes.
Tyler Jasper,
Yes.
Katrina Erman Newton,
Yes.
and Carl McNair.
Yes.
That motion passes. Now, is there now further discussion on the motion to pass the ordinance, the motion as amended? Hearing none, would you call the roll on the main motion, please?
Okay, Denise Kraus,
Yes.
Bill Mansfield,
Yes.
Tyler Jasper,
Yes.
Katrina Erman Newton,
Yes.
and Carl McNair.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. The next matter is item 6. I'm sorry, item 5B, CNG fueling facility equipment contract award. Who is handling that, Julie?
I believe Paige is handling this, or is it Nick? Nick? Both of you? So come on up, Nick.
All right, Board Chair, Board of Directors, my name is Nick Black, RVTD's Fleet Facilities Maintenance Manager. I'm up here, I wanted to talk about resolution number 2601, which is the authorization for our general manager to sign a contract with a company called Love's Alternative Energy. To kind of give a little background on this, and especially for our newer board members who may not be familiar with this, going back to 2023, we started having some major mechanical failures with our existing CNG compressor that was put in 2012. With those failures, we learned that the company that manufactured the compressor was bought out by an overseas company and had basically ceased supporting any of the legacy equipment like we have. They terminated their engineers, and it was kind of a mess. So, as this compressor is kind of the heartblood, of our fleet, majority of fleet CNG, we realized that we need to do something rather quickly to make sure that we can provide reliable public transportation. So we proposed to the board that we'd like to go out for a grant to buy a new CNG compressor, which we did, and we were awarded not everything, but $531,000. And we realized that wouldn't fund a new compressor. So we looked for alternatives, and our finance manager, Debbie Wilbur, was able to obtain us a OTIB loan, which is through the state of Oregon, to fund the remaining portion of this project. So back June 2026, we put out an RFP seeking solicitations for a new fueling station. We received one very good proposal from a company called Love's Alternative Transportation, which is owned by a company called Trillium. We formed a scoring committee, went through all the evaluation process, and ultimately determined that this company can provide the level of product and service that the district requires. Love's Transportation, they're a huge multi-billion-dollar corporation. And I'm sure everybody's heard of Love's Truck Stop, massive company. They're proposing CNG compressors by a company called Angie, which is one of the leading manufacturers in the country right now. So I feel that we would be in extremely good hands going with this product. It's going to offer reliability and long-term support, which we don't have currently. So with this product, or with this purchase, potential purchase, includes 2 new CNG compressors, a new natural gas dryer, and 2 new gas dispensers that what you actually hook up to the vehicles to fuel it with, and a very robust 5-year maintenance support plan. So you may be looking at the number thinking that seems kind of expensive, but what that includes 24-hour digital monitoring, all servicing any part that could fail on the machine for the next 5 years. That could be from a valve to a complete system meltdown, right? It could be very, very expensive. Daily inspections, weekly inspections, 2-year overhauls on the entire system. It's a very, very robust and very impressive plan that they're offering us. And so what this would basically be, they would essentially be operating the fueling network for us.
Thank you very much. Are there questions? On the recommendation of staff, the chair will entertain a motion to approve resolution number 2601.
I did just have one question, actually.
Please do.
I did notice that we were fortunate enough to get the grant, and it well exceeds the cost that we got the contract for. So that's good news. Do we have plans for the difference of the grant, or?
So the difference in the grant is going to be covered by the OTIP loan, is what that's going to be.
Yeah.
Our finance manager was able to secure us a very, very good interest rate on the loan.
Well, that's what I mean. I meant to say, yeah, you're right. The OTIB loan is more than sufficient for the project.
Yes, we actually, so when we started this project, working with other, companies that do this, we got a couple cost estimates based off of full fueling facilities, which at the time came into about 3.2 million is what we anticipated.
Yeah.
And as we got the cost back from Love's Alternative Energy, we went through the independent cost estimate process and found that these costs were very in line with, other projects, similar projects. So yes, we are under budget for our anticipated cost, which is good.
That's good news.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? On recommendation of the staff, the chair requests a motion to approve resolution number 2601.
I'll move to approve resolution number 2601.
Is there further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Denise Krause,
Yes.
Bill Mansfield,
Yes.
Tyler Jesper,
Yes.
Katrina Erman Newton,
Yes.
and Carl McNair.
Yes.
Thank you. The next matter is item
Thank you.
A, levy surface, the motion passes unanimously, by the way, for the record. The next item is new business discussion items. A, levy service additions, public engagement results. Review the onboard passenger survey online community survey results and recommend service additions. Prepare for the September public hearing to approve the service enhancement. Who is handling that, Julie?
So I'll be handling that. Good evening. My name is Adam Gomez, Associate Planner here at RVTD. I think I've had the chance to meet all of you and maybe present to you guys previously in the fall. But yeah, I'll go ahead and get started in presenting some of the survey results we've recently conducted in July. And then Kelly will take over and talk more about some of the other public engagement strategies and recommendations as well. All right, can you guys see that? Is that transitioning? Okay, so a little bit overview. In July, we conducted both an onboard passenger survey and also an online community survey. So similar to in the past, the onboard community or the onboard surveys where RVT staff are physically boarding the buses at different times a day, handing out surveys to passengers while they board the bus, and have them complete that survey as they're on the bus. So we know that we're reaching folks that are, for example, from the Route 10 or the Route 21. So when we go back and look at the data, we can separate it by route and know that it's fairly accurate. I think the major goal from the surveys we did in July and the online survey was to help inform our VTD on the preferences our passengers have for service enhancements that they'd like to see us bring back. So that was a focus on, I think, most of the questions and certainly the most important questions we included in the survey. Like in past surveys, we did a stratified survey sample. And essentially what this means is that each of the routes, we essentially have a goal of how many surveys we want collected that's in proportion to their ridership. So, for example, the Route 10 is roughly 50% of our ridership. We should receive roughly 50% of the surveys from Route 10 respondents. The survey was conducted July 13th through the 15th with a goal of 300 surveys. We were able to meet that, just go over that number. And unlike previous surveys, we didn't have any incentive. This was purely just people wanting to participate. I initially was feeling a little bit unsure if we were going to get the 300 survey limit in such a short timeline, but people were very open and very excited and very eager to share their thoughts on this. So it went pretty smoothly once we actually got on board the bus. And then the online community survey, that was a survey that we sent out to the wider community, to community partners, social service organizations, posted on social media, our website. So it gives people another opportunity to participate and to share their voice that maybe wouldn't participate on board the bus, or also reach the audience that maybe we've missed since the September 2nd service reductions. So again, try to get a different subset of the population to do that online survey as well. So now to the results of the actual onboard passenger survey. As I mentioned, it was a stratified survey sample. So this was pretty much in line with ridership overall. So again, the Route 10 is roughly 50% of ridership, so we received roughly 50% of the survey responses on the Route 10, and roughly corresponds with the other routes on here. So it is a good representative sample of our current passenger group that we took back in July. And then I think this was, one of the more important questions that we sought to answer with the survey, which was, what are our passengers' service priorities that they want to see us bring back? So this question, we asked them to name their top 3 service priorities out of a list that was presented in the survey. And by far, you can see there's 2 very top choices that rise to the top. One being Saturday service, which roughly, it's almost 100% of passengers want Saturday service to be brought back. That's followed by evening service at 70%. And then really everything else, right? So some of those other services that were previously discontinued September 2nd, Route 10, they had a big interest in the Route 17. But I think the highlight here again that you see in the chart is there's 2 top clear winners on here that you'll see is kind of a theme in the survey. And so this question was slightly different. We asked if you could choose one top service priority, what would it be? Or if there was a service that was not listed in the previous question, what would you choose? We see very similar things here in this survey question, the results of this question. Saturday is far and away the most popular option. It remained that the most popular option, followed by evening service, and then a smattering of all the other discontinued routes from September 2nd. So you see the Route 30 in there. You will see that there's another feature or another option with 10.5%. I was able to filter and look through those. The people ended up using this option as a kind of comment field because there's an ability for people to place a comment. So we filtered all of the comments that made sense to go into the options listed here. A lot of them went back into Saturday service because they mentioned Saturday service is really important for us. And then the rest of the ones that are on here were very more one-off comments on like their situation they've experienced since September 2nd, or they want to see chargers on the buses. Nothing that we could tie to like a specific service. But again, the trend continued with Saturday service and evening service as popular choices. So with this question, we asked if RVTD were to implement Saturday service, how would you plan to use the service? So we see that roughly 70% of passengers would choose to use Saturday service for shopping. That's followed by 60% for work or work-related trips, and then recreation and social as the top three choices. This is in line with how we've seen Saturday service utilized when we were operating. It's really an opportunity for folks that are unable to complete those shopping trips during the Monday through Friday service to be able to utilize it for shopping. And then work or work-related, of course, remains a popular option during the Saturday service. But questions like this are helpful for us because it informs the service hours we may operate on Saturday service, gives us a little bit better idea of how our passengers intend to use Saturday service. And then passenger profile, this is a little bit more about the passengers that are actually taking the survey. So one of the questions we asked was, for this trip in which they're filling out the survey, what's the purpose of the trip? What's the main purpose of the trip? So the main purpose of most of the trips that we saw, or a majority of the trips we saw, was to either coming or going to work or work-related trips, and then 18% for shopping. And I think this is a good like juxtaposition of the previous question, because you see that most people are currently using the weekday trips for work or work-related trips, but on Saturday they said that was a more important option of how they would utilize Saturday service. And then to lesser extents, you see medical service, university, college, high school. Those are a little bit lower, but we did this in July when we were operating high schools, and colleges aren't in full swing. And then passenger age, very much in line with what we've previously seen, with I think slightly younger on the youth side for that previous reason of us just taking the survey during the summer months. And then a little bit more, we asked folks to fill out any of these which may apply to them. So mark all that apply, mark all the options that would apply to them. So we see 60% are either part-time or full-time workers, 15% listed as unemployed, 19% disabled, 10% veteran, and then some other options for homemaker, college student, high school student, and of course retired. And this is very similar to what we've historically seen with previous surveys as well. So for the online community survey, again, this was an opportunity for us to reach out to folks that are either didn't have the opportunity to participate in the onboard survey, but I think more importantly to reach out to those folks that maybe we've lost since September 2nd. So giving those folks an opportunity to also share their voice. We're not just capturing our current passengers, but also giving an opportunity for those folks that maybe don't have the chance to ride because the schedules have changed in the past year. So I think a good way of measuring that is looking at this question we asked: when was the last time you rode an RVTD bus? You can see roughly 20% have either never ridden an RVTD bus or have not ridden a bus within the last year. One of the ways we kind of pitched this question or this survey is, do you have somebody in your life that relies on transit? Please take the survey as well. And then sending it to community partners. Do you want to fill out the survey on behalf of a client? So we're able to get some of that, some of those responses in there as well. And then 10% have used it less frequently in the past year. And then roughly 70% more frequently, either within the last week for the past month. So there's a good range of folks that either are current riders or have not been current riders in the past year. So it gives us some new information when they're answering these questions. One of the questions we asked in the online survey is, what city do you live in? Nothing really surprising here. It is a little overrepresented with Eagle Point. So about 8.5% of the respondents were from Eagle Point. And then the other survey responses are pretty much in line, Medford Ashland being the most popular choices. And then same question we asked with the onboard survey, which is, what are your top 3 service priorities? And again, very similar to what we saw in the onboard survey, Saturdays and evenings are by far and away the top 2 choices, followed by some of the other discontinued routes on there. But there are kind of there's a theme here as far as the top 2 service priorities.
I think that number in Eagle Point is because there has been a group of advocates that are really working and pushing for the idea of bringing service back to Eagle Point. And so that's why you saw this survey number jump so high from the Eagle Point area online. It's because of conversations they had had with our staff and with myself and talking to us about how do we voice our objection to Eagle Point not having service. And so that's what I think why that number.
Yeah, they've been very well tuned in participating in any public process. There's a group of them that I think
There
you've
is.
spoken with and talked to. So,
And so when you get to the next slide, where it shows 22.94% wanted Eagle Point route come back, that's why that number is so high, is because of that group.
yeah, and that is different than you're seeing in the onboard survey, because we're opening it up to folks that aren't just on the bus for that survey.
I do have one question on a previous slide.
This one?
I don't recall in the 2025 survey work that we did if Route 17 Ashland Circulator, if that broke into like the top 5. I don't recall that being there.
This is new.
Okay, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, do we have any particular background information on that?
I can look more deeply into that and give you some more, or provide you like that October survey results. I did separate like the Route 10 results, and that's primarily what's driving the Route 17 circulator. Of course, the Route 10 respondents were 50% of our the surveys we collected, so that's kind of pushing that piece of it. So,
all right, thank you.
Yeah. And then we also asked the question for the online survey results, which was, if RVT were to implement Saturday service, what would be the main destinations for Saturday service, or how would you use it? Shopping remains at the top of the list. It is flipped around a little bit. So the second choice here is recreation and social at 70%, followed by work and work-related trips farther down. So if you remember in the onboard passenger survey, the second highest choice was work-related trips. So a little bit different, but the top 3 choices remain just slightly out of order. And then to smaller extents, you'll see school, social services, and medical services on there. All right, so that's the end of the surveys we took in July in the onboard surveys. I'll go ahead and pass it off to Kelly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Question.
Let me comment on your presentation. It was excellent and very helpful.
I have a question on the survey for you.
Yeah.
First, these surveys are really great. I know a lot of staff effort goes into going on to all the buses and gathering all this information, but it's really invaluable to this conversation we're about to have. And I wanted to ask, I didn't see anything about Jacksonville service on the survey.
So
can you speak to that?
Yeah, we didn't. The main question where we asked about service priority was,
It's right there.
where is it? Right here.
There it is.
This one, top 3 service priorities. We didn't list it. Paige, you might be able to talk more about that, but I think the Route 30 is something we're looking at implementing.
Regardless.
Regardless,
Yeah, so
so
in the very beginning of the survey, it had an introductory
Yeah.
that explained to the passengers and to the community who took the online survey that we were looking for input for additional service enhancements, and that the RVTD board had already made the decision to restore the Route 30 to Jacksonville. And so although that was in the introductory, we still did have some people who chose the Route 30 in their open selections. But try as we might to let people know, hey, that this is already something that's already, it's on the docket. We still got comments, open comments, but because of that, we didn't include it in the route selections because it's already a route that we're going to restore.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, my name's Kelly Matting. I'm the operations manager here at RVTD. So just want to kind of go through to show you all the public engagement activities that RVTD has, I guess, engaged in with the public, which is, frankly, as a non-transit person historically, this is an amazing amount of effort to get the public's input. So in the fall of 2025, what you're going to see in 2025 and summer of 2026 are very similar things in terms of getting data. So onboard passenger survey, like Mr. McNair was saying, staff goes out on the bus and actually asks people, helps them fill out a survey, encourages them to fill out a survey. And I did that in 2025, and we got great results in terms of getting information, not what the information was, but simply people engaging. There were very few people that I personally dealt with that didn't want to provide information. I think it was like 2 out of all the people that I talked to. So we've done both an onboard survey in the fall of 2025 and in the summer of 2026, as well as an online community survey. So if people want to get online and provide information, they can. We've done that both times. Interesting, in the fall of 2025, we did a driver survey to see what the drivers were anecdotally hearing from our patrons. And there was that data presented to the board, as well as public open houses, both times. And then in 2025, this was, during the layoffs and the reduction of service, we did a survey of the board of directors. So that we did in 2025. What's happening now is in September, your next board meeting, you'll have a public hearing where we will go over sort of the staff's recommendation to you, which is on the next slide, and then hearing from the public. I am anticipating that we're going to hear from the public that they're happy with the service that we're going to be recommending to you, because it does fall in line with all the information that we've heard in the fall of 2025 and the summer of 2026. And that is Saturday service and longer weekday service. So staff took the information that we got from all these surveys, including the board and the drivers, and kind of ran it through what it could really look like. And we did run boards, which kind of show what every driver, what every piece of work would look like that a driver could bid on. And we looked at the staffing that would necessitate, and we looked at the money associated with that staffing, because we only have so much money, and so we have a pie. We need to be able to operate within that. So what we will be recommending to the board is Saturday service from 8:30 to 5. That would begin December 12th. That's after our extended weekdays service would begin on December 7th. The reason for that is because we don't actually get the money until the last part of November, and that's when Thanksgiving is, and there's holidays and some things in there. So We typically start service on the first day of a pay period, and that is December 7th. And then subsequently the December 12th for Saturday. Saturdays captures we anticipate capturing 90% of the Saturday ridership. When we looked at the ridership that we had when we had Saturday service, and we looked at sort of juxtaposing it against these hours, we would capture about 90% of those that had been riding on Saturday again. Weekday evenings, we're looking to extend our Monday through Friday service till 7:30. And that would capture about 24% of the ridership after 4 that we had historically had. And then, Mr. McNair, you asked about Jacksonville. So we had anticipated restoring service to Jacksonville, and we looked at beginning that also December 7th with 6 trips weekdays and 5 trips on Saturdays. And really what we did was we looked at the main times we were having people riding the bus when we did offer Jacksonville service to Jacksonville, and this captures the bulk of that as well. So this is, I think there are kind of a couple of money slides, if you will, from this presentation, and one is our customers want Saturday service. That's their first priority, and their second priority is weekday evenings. And Jacksonville, and how do we accomplish that with the money we have to hire the staffing that we need? Because it's not just drivers. We'll have additional field supervisors, additional fueler, and a detailer. And so we have additional support staff that go along with that.
On the Jacksonville service, so are the 6 trips would be every 2 hours, I guess, during the day, but are they like grouped in the morning and the evening, or how do you plan to arrange those?
No, it starts at 9:10. It starts at 9:10, then 11:10, then 1:10, then 3:10.
Okay.
Then 5:10, and I think that's 6. Saturdays, it's kind of in the middle as well of the day of that Saturday. So we think it'll capture trips out to Jacksonville. And the other benefit of of restoring Route 30 is that people can get to Bi-Mart. And right now they can't if they're on the bus. The furthest they can get is to Thunderbird, which is great. But we had riders that went to Bi-Mart, and unless they walk down the street, they really can't get there now. So this is actually, from a shopping perspective, when you saw that we're looking at Saturday service is primarily for shopping and or leisure, being able to go to Bi-Mart, I think, will be a great benefit.
Thank you.
How does the Jacksonville hours proposed here compare to what they had before?
Oh, that is a good question. Paige, do you know that? Sean is here in the audience as well, who might be able to answer that.
So we used to do Jacksonville, I believe it was 9 trips on weekdays.
Yes, that's right.
And I think it was also maybe 9 on Saturdays.
I think we ended earlier.
7 trips?
Yes.
And 7 trips
7
on.
trips.
Mhm.
Okay.
Would it be a huge price difference to just keep the schedule consistent for all 6 days?
Yes, because what that means is we can sort of fit it in with the drivers that we have available to hire. If we add trips, we could look at it, and maybe there's a little bit of a margin. We can look at that. I don't think when we looked at the trips as well to Jacksonville, I'm not sure, and we'll have to look at that. I'm not sure what you would be buying in terms of the number of additional people that you would be serving, but we can absolutely look at that. Right now, the run board that we have is hiring the drivers that we have the money for. But we can certainly look at that, and we can bring that back to you on the 23rd because we have another meeting.
I'm just thinking about how, for ease of understanding the schedule for people, that it's consistent,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't have to learn that there's a different schedule for Saturday.
Right. Nope, I understand that. You're right.
Just so you are aware too, a lot of our routes on Saturday will be different, and that's how it was before. So Monday through Friday, most of our routes were running on a 30-minute schedule, or for those that had higher frequency, like the Route 10 that was on a 20-minute schedule, the 24 and the 21. But on Saturdays, they were running on an hourly schedule. And so Saturdays do have a lower frequency, and they always have. So Monday through Friday, we give the most service because there's the most people riding. And on Saturday, we had less buses, less frequency. And so it is different, and it was different on Saturdays, and it still will be. So the only route on Saturdays that will run at a higher frequency will be the Route 10. It will run on a 30-minute schedule. That's what it did before, on Saturdays before. The other routes will run on a 60-minute frequency, except for the Route 21, which will run on a 40-minute frequency, because it's hard to get that one to be, anything different unless you're really spacing it out. And then Jacksonville was originally going to only be 4 trips.
Mm-hmm.
We had this fiscal amount that we needed to work with, and when we ended up doing this latest run board that had all of the hours dialed in the way that they are presented to you tonight, we were able to add a 5th trip on Saturday for Jacksonville. So we've already added a little bit more service to Jacksonville than what we were originally anticipating being able to do. But just so you're aware, next month we will be providing you with details on the schedule Monday through Friday, and Saturday you'll see it's already different, and our passengers are used to that.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a very good explanation.
Any further discussion from,
I just want to, the only thing I want to do is this last slide. So you'll have a public hearing at your next meeting on September 23rd. Notice will be published for that meeting. And the board will be given in a staff report for your packet. You'll be, like Paige said, presented more detailed information about what our schedule is in terms of the time, both weekdays and Saturdays. And then we'll let the public know that they can comment via a form or they can come to the meeting. So again, it's trying to get as much public input once we kind of reveal what it can look like to the board for that public hearing. So, and that, Mr. Mansfield, is the end.
thank you, it's been very useful. Thank you, both of you. Are there further questions?
I do have one question. Thank you. So I'd really like to secure our city governments as kind of like allies in the recognizing that this worked really well and this is going to do good for their folks. I would be more than happy, whether it's just us as board members or board plus staff, to do another tour of the local city councils and say, hey, here's the data from your constituents specifically. We can measure by city roughly what your constituents' responses were and what they wanted, and here's how we're delivering on it. Because my understanding is, because Saturday service and evening service is so universally the top 2, those are likely the top 2 for every single city that we serve. And I'd love to be able to go to those cities and say, this is the top 2 for all your people, and we're doing it. This is when it starts. You can let them know it starts in December. I'd love to let them know that and remind them that it was a great idea to endorse our levy, as well as for those that didn't, on why maybe you should endorse it next time. Especially since I know it's going to take a little bit of time for us to get our numbers up once that kicks off in December. It's not going to be our full audience all at once the first day. And I imagine they'll ask what those numbers are. So I'd like to come back in 6 months or a year and tell them what those numbers are once they're truly reflective of the service and the need. But for now, I'd just be happy to say, yes, we're doing it. This is what your people wanted. Thank you. We got it.
I think that's great. And I had thought about talking to Paige about a slide for that, because I do think it would be a good thing. You all went out to those city councils who did endorse the levy and made that political kind of walked out there and took that position. And so letting them know what we're doing is, I think, a great idea. So I can do the same thing I did before, which is put the schedules together for all the cities, because they meet at a variety of times during the week and during the month. And then you guys can have a sign-up sheet and go. And it will be easier this time, because saying what we're doing is actually, it's pretty short. It's different than when we were talking about the levy and we had all that data that we were giving them to show how important RVTD is and transit is. So most of those experiences you could probably just do at the public comment period, which usually gives ample time to give an update. So I'll put all that together and have that for you at the 23rd meeting.
Thank you. The one piece I definitely want to share with them, even if it's just in public comment, is your constituents specifically, as best we can tell, this is what they said, just to make it super specific to them.
Sure.
And make them look really good.
Okay, that sounds good.
Great idea to keep in touch with the city councils. So you're going to present that framework for us at the next meeting.
I will.
Do you have further comments or suggestions?
I just have one quick question. Are you going to also have a social media post that could be shared?
I would imagine, Paige, can you talk about that? Because Paige is really heading up the public involvement, kind of public information campaign for RVTD. So want to talk about that, Paige?
Yeah, so tonight was a major milestone for our process with getting out notice to the public. We have a public hearing happening at the next meeting, but in order for us to notify the public of what the public hearing is about, we needed this meeting tonight so that we could show you, the board, first what our recommendation is going to be at the September meeting for the public hearing. And so now that we've had this meeting, starting tomorrow, we'll be posting on our website, social media, in the newspaper. We have a e-newsletter that will go out to our constituents and stakeholders. We're also going to go a little further and contact cities and also our bus pass program constituents and make sure that they're aware that we're proposing this to the board. So really all of that public outreach and solicitation, if you will, for getting comments about the public hearing can now happen after tonight's meeting. But we needed to have this meeting first in order to recommend to you what is going to be at the public hearing in about a month.
Yeah, my question was referring to that first bullet that didn't say social media specifically, but you included it. So thank you.
Anything further? Thank you so kindly. Do we cover 6A and B? Is that right? Have we
We
covered
haven't
both of
covered
those?
B.
Hmm?
We have to cover
Oh,
B.
we have yet to cover B. Okay. Thank you. We're down
We were
on
trying, but we didn't get there.
Okay. 6B, you're on.
Okay, Paige,
Page.
Title VI plan.
Me. Okay, so I'm going to go through our next 3-year program for our Title VI conformance. So Title VI is a plan that we have to adopt and submit to the Federal Transit Administration. I sent to you our draft plan, and it will be at the next meeting also as a public hearing for adoption before we can submit it to Federal Transit Administration. Tonight, I'm basically giving you an overview of the Title VI plan's contents, and happy to answer any questions about the items or information that you might have read within the actual plan itself. It is very lengthy, has a substantial amount of data and analysis that's required, and not planning on going through all of that tonight in the presentation, but I'm happy to answer questions that you might have tonight. And also, if you just want to email me, I'm happy to respond. Title VI is a law that states that no person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Of course, because we do receive financial assistance from the Federal Transit Administration, we must adhere to this law. RVTD assures that every effort will be made to prevent discrimination through the impacts of its programs, policies, and activities on minority and low-income populations. And I want to point this out because Title VI is very specific to minority and low-income populations. I did include information about other demographics in our Title VI plan, because I think it's important to be more comprehensive, since we're already going through the census and we are already doing a lot of our survey work and looking at those demographics. But Title VI is specifically for minority and low-income populations. In addition, RVTD will take reasonable steps to provide meaningful access to services for persons with limited English proficiency. And so that is our LEP population. So the elements of the Title VI plan are directed by Federal Transit Administration. This is not something that we decide to put in there. It is actively required, and it is screened when we do our triennial review as well by Federal Transit Administration to make sure that these elements have been addressed within our Title VI plan. So they include a review of our current service, any recent service changes to fare, public participation activities, recent planning activities, upcoming planning activities, and construction projects. You can kind of think of the time that this is written as a snapshot in time. And so our recent service changes, they would be considered anything that happened between the last adoption of the plan and this current adoption. And so it's a 3-year period of time. So we did, of course, have to address the September 2025 service reduction in the Title VI plan, and also a description of what we are currently providing as of the adoption of this plan. So it won't include, for example, what we're planning to do in December with the service enhancement. That will go in the next Title VI plan. It also has 4 primary service-related analysis that is required. That's vehicle loads, vehicle headways, on-time performance, and service availability. And then we are also required to look at the limited English proficiency as what they call a 4-factor analysis to understand what the prevalence is of populations in our area that do have difficulties with speaking English. So first, I'm going to go through the analysis. Everything that is in the left-hand column is described within the plan, but I'm going to be focusing more on the right-hand column in this presentation tonight. So vehicle load is simply the ratio of passengers to seats available. There's a fairly simple equation that you look at the number of buses that are on a route at any given hour, and then you look at the number of passengers that are riding the bus. That is a very minute type of analysis. You can also look at the number of buses that are scheduled for the day, and then also the number of passengers that are riding during that day. And that's typically what we do. And then if we see that there are some indications of doing some of that more minutia type of data, which is a pretty big staff ask when we're doing a data analysis to that degree, then we'll go ahead and move forward with that. But you can see here, there's mathematically, you can see the number of miles on a trip, the number of minutes, the actual minutes based on our schedule, the number of trips per weekday. And then we are basing almost all of this data that you're seeing on October of 2025. October and April are our best months for looking at data. And so we decided to use October of 2025 for a lot of this analysis because it was already done. And so we went ahead and used it. Seats provided is essentially looking at the number of buses that were in service during that time. And if we used a 35-foot bus versus a 30-foot bus, again, all of this is in the plan if you want to look at the details. And then our October 2025 ridership. And just by simply dividing the number of people that were riding based on the number of seats that were available, we get what's called the load factor. Anything less than 1 means that there are seats available. We do have an aisle, fairly long aisle in between those seats. Very common for people to stand in that aisle. Maybe they want to stretch their legs. Maybe they're getting ready to get off. Maybe they've just, don't have an interest in sitting down. And so the number of seats that are available is an indicator of those people who do want to sit down. And you can see that most of our routes, except for the Route 10, did have seats available. So if you got on the bus, you'd look around and say, hey, there's a seat. I'm going to go take that seat. The Route 10 is the exception. It always has been the exception. It's our busiest route. It carries about 50% of our ridership every day. And you can see that it's over 1.76 is the load factor, which means that all the seats are full and you have people that are standing. Now, there's a lot of disclaimers here. The first being that this is looking at the ridership as though no one is really getting on or off the bus. Everyone that is boarded has stayed on the bus for the entire trip, which doesn't happen. And so we have presented to you more of that deeper analysis like I spoke about before in prior meetings that has looked at the ridership by hour and by bus stop. That has shown us that if there are some capacity problems, where they're happening, and more specifically, what time of day. But for the purposes of the Title VI plan, we don't have to present that data. We just have to present this chart. So I'm going to move on. On-time performance, this is essentially the route's schedule adherence. And so we look at this based on the route schedule, and we use timed stops. A timed stop is a point during the route where we have decided that it's either a major stop that we will dwell at because it has high passenger activity, or it's at a certain point in the route where we can safely pull the bus over if we need to make up time. Think 6 o'clock in the morning, we're running ahead of schedule. That bus needs to pull over because it's got 2 minutes to kill. We're going to let it do it at that location. So we have what's called this timed stop schedule adherence. And through all of these routes, you'll see these locations. We have our stop ID number on the left-hand side. We have what we call the stop name. This is our shorthand of what we would call these stops. It's also what's on the schedule, the printed schedule for the passengers. And then we have our October 2025 schedule adherence. Our goal is to be on time 90% of the time. And so we have, for example, this is Route 4. This is a newer route that we added in October. We have on most of our stops, except for this one at Oakdale and Dakota, we are meeting our goal. We also have Front Street Station is our destination when we're coming back, and so 93% of the trips we're making it on time. Now, what does that mean? Well, the Route 4 is supposed to arrive before the hour or before the half hour because we have this recovery time. And so, did it actually arrive at the time that we expected it to arrive back at Front Street Station? And that would be 93% of the time. We have another indication of, well, okay, yeah, it was later than when we expected, but did it at least arrive before the top of the hour or the bottom of the hour? And so we have 3% of those trips that were past it. And then we have another indication, which is called when we hold a bus or what we would consider missed transfers. This is probably the most important one because if you're a passenger trying to get to Front Street Station and you need to board a different bus, you want to make it to the station in time to get off the bus, walk or run to the next bus, and board. And we are allowed to hold a bus for 3 minutes. And so the buses that arrived on the Route 4 for this particular example that missed that window was 2% of the trips in October. We did realize this for this new route. We had a lot of feedback from our drivers and our own data analysis that we were doing on the back end. And so we made some improvements. One of the things that we did was we simply switched it to across the street. So now it's leaving Front Street Station heading north instead of having to circle around from 10th to Fur or 10th over to Central and Riverside. And so we, just by simply saying, you know what, we're going to have it depart across the street so it's heading northbound automatically, we were able to adjust the schedule, and now we've improved the schedule adherence for getting back to Front Street. I'm spending a lot of time on this particular graph, but they all basically will stay the same except for we didn't do a July 2026 on any of these other routes because they have been in service for a very long time, many, many years. So Route 60, you can see, has pretty good, extremely good schedule adherence, getting back to Front Street Station, and sort of mixed throughout the route, but it is still close to 90%, except for up here at the VA Dom. But that is a major time point, and we do get a lot of passengers there. Route 21, again, very good schedule adherence. Route 10, typical for Route 10. This is often part of the day when it's coming back in later in the afternoons, especially. You can see we've got in the inbound side, or what you would basically see from Lithia and Oak, from Ashland, Siskiyou, Lithia into Medford, it starts to lose some of its schedule adherence. But we are still seeing 72% of the trips arriving on time back at Front Street Station. That's when it's scheduled to get back, and then it has a recovery. Still 3% are arriving past the top or the bottom of the hour. And then we have this 5%, which might seem kind of weird, but that just means that there are actually quite a few trips that are missing the transfer, more than what you would have seen coming in from the scheduled time to when it's at the top or the bottom of the hour. Again, this is a typical thing with the Route 10 that we see. We have shaved off geographic areas off the 10. We have removed bus stops from the Route 10. We have put in electronic fare system to speed up boarding. We've done quite a lot, but ultimately, if you have a lot of passengers and you don't have good frequency, we are going to have some of this that we've seen. And you've seen this before. We presented this to you just 6 months ago. So that's the Route 10. The Route 24, again, this is slightly different because it used to depart from South Gateway, and now it departs from Front Street Station. So it's a little bit different than it was in the last Title VI plan, or what it was before September of last year. Also, I have this asterisk here because it is not on a schedule that allows us to look at 5 minutes. It has a 4 minute recovery time essentially when it gets back to Front Street Station. But still, we have some pretty good schedule adherence here on this one. And then our last route is the Route 40. We have about 1% of trips that are arriving past the top or the bottom of the hour, and then about 4% of trips that are missed transfers. That's a little bit higher than I would like to see with the Route 40. We have also done some similar things with the Route 40 with trying to remove some areas, remove stops to gain some efficiencies. There's one point that I want to have here, though, is that we are installing transit signal priority on Highway 99. We have already done that south of Garfield. We're installing additional transit signal priority equipment at several signals this year. And so that will improve on the Route 40. And it will improve on the Route 10. The construction didn't help us either. So next year, hopefully 2027, if the construction's done, that APC or the TSP system will be working in our favor. Okay, so I didn't put the service headways in here because that's basically, is it running on 30 minutes? Is it running on 40 minutes? Is it running on hourly? But it's in the plan. The last service analysis is service availability, and this is essentially going back to the purpose of Title VI. Are you providing service to areas, geographic areas that have higher than average minorities and persons of low income? So this is a comparison to Jackson County, and then it's the populations that are within a quarter mile of our routes. And so if you look at Jackson County, you can see that the total percentage within the county is 21.9% minority. However, within a quarter mile of our routes, we're serving 27.9% of the minorities that are within our service area. Latinos are 19%, and within the county, total county, it's 16.2. Low income, we're serving 16.2%. Within the county, it's 12.6. And households of 200% low income, we're at 36.5% within a quarter mile. And the county has 21.8%. And so this is just to demonstrate that where we are putting our service, it is making it to the geographic areas that have the highest concentrations of minorities and low-income households. Even still after our service reduction, this is our current service after September. Okay, so moving on, the limited English proficiency is assisting those who have a difficulty with reading or speaking English to be able to have access to our documents, our schedule, some of our core information that we would have on our website, etc. This one's a little bit tricky, but essentially what you're looking for are the highest concentrations of LEP populations by minority. And then you actually look at that minority total population and you go into the census and you find out how much of the persons who responded to the long form said that they speak English less than well. And so of our county, Hispanic Latino is that population. And so and interestingly enough, I don't know if you guys are census geeks, but they changed it in the ACS, the community survey. They are only now counting persons over the age of 5, which it's like, yeah, because even anyone under the age of 5 doesn't speak English very well. So, so the census now is only counting people over the age of 5. when they're asking, do you speak English less than well? So Hispanic, Latino, those who said that they speak English less than well was 1,745 persons. And of the 35,931 persons who self-represented as being Hispanic, Latino ethnicity, that means that 4.85% of the Hispanic, Latino population does not speak English less than well. So you can't just look at those across the entire population of Jackson County. You actually have to look at by the ethnicity. The Title VI recommendation, it's not the law, but the recommendation under the body of work for Title VI says that if you have any ethnicity that is 5% or more who does not speak English well, you should translate your vital documents. We've always, like in the last 10 years, 15 years, we've been around that 5%. We haven't quite gone over it, but it's enough that we want to make sure that we are translating our documents into Spanish. And so that's what we do. Our vital documents, meaning our ride guide, information on our website, public hearing information, notices in the paper, service changes that are upcoming. We make sure that those are translated into Spanish. We also have services for our employees who don't speak Spanish, but who need to have a translation service to assist customers who need Spanish translation assistance. And so we offer that. And then we also reach out to community partners who primarily serve our Latino populations to make sure that they are aware of our programs and services. So that's the LEP analysis. And so next steps, like I said, you've received the plan, the draft plan in your packet. After this meeting, we will be putting it onto our website, and we will be posting a notice in the paper and on our website that we are requesting comment, and we will be requesting adoption of the Title VI plan at the September 26th meeting. And then we'll submit that to FTA, and they'll review it. They'll make sure that it adheres to what they expect. Could be that they ask for some changes, but we won't know that until we submit it to them. So that's basically our process with getting the Title VI plan submitted and adopted, and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much, Paige. That was very detailed, and I think it helps us to understand that you are dealing with minority people and low-income people who are very important to us. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Next item is 7, reports from the general manager.
Bill,
I beg pardon? I'm sorry.
just one question or note.
Sure.
On page 6 of that, I noted that, it mentions Rogue Action Center. I don't think that exists anymore. And then also, I wondered, it doesn't list Rogue Retreat, and I didn't know if that is one should be listed or if it's not. It's in the middle of the page, agencies and nonprofits.
Sorry, what page was that?
It's on page 6 when it lists the agencies and nonprofits. I just wanted to make a note that Rogue Action Center doesn't exist anymore. And also that I wondered if Rogue Retreat should be listed on here because I know we do things with them. And so, because I saw,
Okay,
yeah. Okay.
I will look at that section of the plan and make sure it's up to date. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Thank you again, Paige. Next item is number 7, reports from the general manager. Julie?
Right. Well, I wanted to let you know that we are starting up our union negotiations again. They've been kind of stalled out, and we were stalled out a little bit over a period of time because we had an increase in our health insurance of 28.9%, which we did not put in our budget. And so it was kind of a shock for the staff to get that kind of an increase from MODA. So what we did was we worked with Hub, which is our insurance agent, and they came up with this idea of doing individual coverage plans for each employee. So we no longer would have a group plan, but we would actually offer up individual plans for employees. And so they would have to go in, select what they would like to have as an insurance plan with, there was a parameter of how much money they could spend. And so it's called an ICHRA. And the union decided that we had lots of meetings over this and talked about union committee. There was a committee that looked at the health insurance offerings, and we decided to move forward with this. So it was management and the union that made that decision. With that said, we have a really short timeline to do this. And so it has been crazy around RVT the last week and a half. We have been meeting with every individual employee, their family members, to help them facilitate that. A lot of our employees that are older are making a choice to move on to Medicare, and because individual plans are really difficult and very expensive to, if you can even find one, if you're over the age of 65. So for like myself, I will be moving to Medicare and no longer will be in a group plan with our VTD. We've had moments of panic and very disgruntled employees because, change is very, very difficult. But I have to tip my hat not only to Remodel Health, which is the ICHRA plan holder, but also to Hub. And they've been on site and meeting with each individual employee over the last 2 days. So we're just about complete. We have open enrollment. We have to do this, and we have to have it all in place by October 1st. So we have notified MODA that we are cutting our plan with them and no longer will have a group health plan come October 1. So all this had to be done rather quickly, but we got it done. So that is what staff has really been concentrating on for the last probably month. Just trying to get all those moving pieces in play, get contracts developed. Our attorney looked over the contracts. We've signed our contracts and we're moving forward. This will be a cost savings for the district. So we're not going to have that 28.9% increase, but we actually are going to save some money and stay within budget. So it's unfortunate that we have had to do these kind of moves, but in the long run, I think it's going to actually help the district provide better coverage for their employees. So we'll see. We're still in the process of trying to figure it all out because now we have how many employees with different plans? Total 72 employees. So all of a sudden now we have 72 different plans. So I will let you know, nobody has left employment here screaming because they could stand it, but it's gone better. And I want to actually thank the staff, not only for this, but also Edem presented tonight, Nick presented tonight, Paige presented tonight, all the other business that RVTD is doing, like our RFP for the CNG, our update on the Title VI plan, our bylaw changes, all that is still happening amongst all this other chaos that has been happening. And just shows that we have a level of professionalism that I don't think happens at every transit agency. So thank you to the staff for their hard work on this, and it's coming along. On the flip side of that, I've been probably in Salem every week, or somewhere in the state every week, talking to either legislators about the visioning project that's going forward with the governor's office, or participating in the subgroups that are working towards providing the governor and the legislators with a plan on how we're going to get a transportation package across in 27. I just last week was meeting with Senator Starr, who is really going to take charge of the Republican side of the package. It's very, very clear that it's got to be bipartisan, that everybody has to get something out of it. There's going to have to be compromise that happens. And I'm going to stay optimistic is all I can say. It's going to be a hard lift. We have a lot of legislators that may be changing seats come November, so we don't know what the outcome of the general election is going to do this package. On top of it, again, it's bipartisan. So one of the things that Kelly and I met with the executive director of the Oregon Transit Association on Monday. One of the things that we offered up was that we would go to every region I would, not Kelly so much. She has to stay here and run things, but I would be going to every region in the state and try to get legislators involved in what's happening in transit across the state of Oregon. There is a movement to present a package that has, one of the things that transit agencies have been asked is, how many of you are going to cut service? And if they haven't cut service, every single transit agency is going to be cutting service. So we can't maintain what we've been doing. That is a given. So we've spelled that out in the package of what does that look like? How is it going to impact each transit agency across the state? The second thing we looked at is how can we maintain a core level of service? So RVTD has kind of had a core level of service that we've cut to already. Now we're adding back service, and that is because of the levy. But we also know what we have today is our core level, and how long can we sustain that? So we've given them that information for the package. And then the third one was, what is essential to keep everyone kind of going for over the next 10 years? So what does that number look like? How much revenue is going to have to be brought in to be able to bring the core level or the level that your community wants to see? RVTD is going to be highlighted in this visioning piece as one of the agencies that already did the cut, knows what the core looks like, and also knows what our 10-year vision looks like. So we've done all that hard work, and I have to thank the staff for doing that, because we have run the numbers multiple times. We've made, poor Sean redo run boards every time I come to his office. He just looks at me because he knows that I'm going to ask him, well, what if we did something like this? What will it look like, and what will it cost us? Which means he has to do a slew of work. I'm really proud of RVTD because we will be one of the ones that'll be highlighted in the visioning. The visioning group right now, we've been hearing from all the different subgroups, but the subgroups have not presented to us yet what that's going to look like. And they will be doing that in September. So in September, the visioning group will be hearing back from these groups with the final kind of draft memos of what they think each group needs, from financing to roads to sustainability to, transit. So all of these different subgroups will be reporting back to the visioning group. We'll be taking a look at that. Then the one piece that I brought up, and it was, we have to engage the legislators at some point. They haven't been part of the voice of this visioning, but we're going to have to bring them back in and start talking to them about what we think this is going to look like to prepare them for the final recommendation. Now, the final recommendation, I don't believe, is going to give them a clear path or a clear vision on what taxation or what we're going to do to leverage dollars for transit. It may not be taxation, it may be moving general fund in the state of Oregon, or it may be just looking at all the different pots of money that that the state of Oregon has and how we can leverage it differently from the federal side all the way down to the state side. What we'll do is we'll give them a report that will give them options, and then they can also go back to the Prosperity Council that has met and look at some of the recommendations from the Prosperity Council, which is, I think they kind of landed on a sales tax. So they're going to have a bunch of different things recommended to them as options, and then they're going to have to do the hard work. So come January, well, February, they're going to have to start building this package. The one thing that they know is they're going to have to do it early, and they have to have bipartisan participation. So all of this groundwork is being set for them to help them with the conversation. Will we get there in 27? I don't know. Will it be 28 or 29? It might be, because it's a lot. I think that the one thing they're starting to realize is it's not just transportation in the state of Oregon. It's a lot of things. It's housing. It's, education. It's healthcare. So it's a whole bunch of different things, and somehow we have to balance it all. And so I think the transportation piece of it that we're really looking strongly at is that what can we do to maintain for a period of time? So if we have to wait, how long can we wait? And what are we willing to give up? Well, we've already given it up here to maintain that, to get to that next sweet spot where we can look at revenue for the state of Oregon. The other piece that, as the commissioner, meeting with Senator Starr is, what can the commission do to help reorganize ODOT to meet some of that bipartisan pieces on accountability, reliability, et cetera. And so we're doing that piece of it too on top of it. So it's a lot of work, and we'll continue it. And I think Kelly said when she looked at my schedule, it made her want to throw up. It's a lot, but we're getting through it. And I have to say, if I didn't have Kelly here to run things, we'd be in a world of hurt, because I'm pretty much ignoring everything other than she says no, but I mean, she keeps me abreast of what's going on. But I'm not in the weeds like I was. So I'm not in there, well, maybe I am. I think I took a phone call today from a patron that was upset. So yes, I guess I'm still in the weeds, but I'm really concentrating on this funding, and I'm really hopeful that we can get something across the finish line. So more to come. I'll have more to report out next month on what the visioning group is doing to kind of give you a better idea. But that's kind of where we're at. So I'll just open it to questions. And
Questions?
I want to go back to the healthcare question. How many people do you know did like you switch from the insurance to the Medicare?
21? 27 spouses, so 27.
Wow.
Which really helps RVTD.
Sure.
And I have to say, being one of those people that made that choice, looking at it, I actually came out better than what before. So in some ways, because I was buying up my product through the healthcare, and so I was paying a lot more than out of my own pocket.
Mhm.
And when I do it this way, I actually come out better moving to Medicare.
Getting a supplement too?
Getting a supplement, yeah. And, to give you an example for myself, I was given, this amount of about $1,300 that I could pick my supplement and pick my, what I have to pay for my Medicare out of my Social Security. And it comes out to where I won't even touch that 1,300. I'll not even get close to it. And so it's actually going to save the district a lot of money.
Yeah, do you have an idea about how much it's going to save by making this move?
first off, like,
Debbie, why don't you come up to the microphone? Sorry. Just so that we can catch it on. Maybe. Just hold it down. There you go. Whoop. There.
I have a lot of trouble with the microphone. Excuse me. Debbie Wilbur, Finance Manager, RVTD. First off, we're going to save the 28%, which is huge. So we're not going to have that huge increase, which would have actually buried us. And then in addition to that, the numbers are not final yet, but we're thinking, around $200,000 maybe, in the first year. And then, the rates will go up. But so the biggest thing is the 28%. So you take $3 million, between 2.5 and $3 million of health insurance that you're paying, and you multiply that by 1.28, that's a lot of money. That's a huge increase, 28% on $2.5 million, which we're not paying. So we consider that a save. And, so everyone gets a certain benefit amount, and it's all now based on their age. So instead of our pricing being based on a collective average age of 54, I think it was, they said, each person is now evaluated by their age. So instead of this person who's in their 30s getting charged at the same rate as a person who's in their 60s, which is high, we're now getting the benefit of a sliding scale. So everyone who's in the younger portion, who uses their insurance less, is costing us less. We're still paying 94.5% of their costs, and they're paying the 5%. But it's still, we're saving money even at that. So it's a better costed plan, but it's it has its good points and its bad points. But most of the people who've been coming out after they actually talk to somebody from Remodel or Hub are happy with what is happening. So that's a good point.
I think that the biggest thing was we would have had to increase the portion that the employee paid. So the employee's portion was, what did we figure out?
They're 5.5 now, and we would have had to increase it to 20.5 in order, and we would have still had to absorb a 14%, almost a 14% increase. But, it was either that or, that cliff that's somewhere down there in the future.
Would be here tomorrow.
Yeah. It would be
think it was
a lot sooner. So
about close to $500,000 increase, wasn't it?
Pardon?
$500,000 increase with the 28.9, I think.
It was over
overall.
that. I think it was like 600 and something.
So that gives you an idea of what I probably subtracted out the employee portion, but that gives you an idea of what it was going to cost the district. It was ridiculous and not affordable at all. So there are losers in this, and every time you switch a healthcare plan, there's losers. I mean, I can't tell you how many times your doctor isn't in the network or something, but we tried to give them many, many options so that they could look at it and make decisions on their own. So that's what it's based on.
Wasn't there like over 30 plans that they could choose from? I think it was
38 plans. So it's a little overwhelming to them trying to figure it out, but they've had advisors here that actually looked at their stuff and helped them making some of the choices. So it's worked out.
Yes, Tyler.
In summary, I want to make sure I understand. So because we're not doing that big increase, we're saving enough that we're actually getting an estimate of about 200,000 back. That's cheaper than what we
That we
budgeted
won't-
for.
we don't
won't
have
put
the
out.
exact numbers yet, and so we don't at this point really know that's a good number. But when we did the preliminary numbers, that's kind of where we landed. The only thing we're not sure about is the Medicare. If it turns out about what they said it would cost us to pay for that, then yes, that will be the number. But if it's a little bit higher, it'll be a little bit less. So I really hate to
We're just
give that
guessing. We're
number
giving
out.
I know, I'm just salivating, thinking of what we might be able to do with that. I recognize it's not a renewable
Well,
resource.
I think that what it showed you, well, it'll help with the cliff on the other end. But we also know that health care, unless something is done about it, is going to keep increasing. So even those individual um, plans will increase, and we'll have to be back at the table every single year as we're going through this. It's unfortunate, but that's how it is.
Are we anticipating then taking that savings, or whatever it is, in the ballpark of 200K, and using that as, well, we're going to use that savings and just use it to kind of pay it forward, and the future expected increase in costs for the insurance?
Well, I think
we'll
it
use
just
to
goes
pay for
into
that?
your bottom line, and it would cover any increases in anything. So if it's fuel, if it's, again, it's just going to go back into your general fund to keep
Okay.
from that cliff happening. But it's not like we're going to say, we've saved this much and now we're going to put a different route out. No, it's not enough because you can't sustain it. It's an unknown factor. Insurance is one of those unknown factors that we have no control over, or at least we try to control it. It's just terrible.
I'm happy with it in general fund for now. Thank you.
Yeah, we will have an increase next year. So I'm pretty sure everybody does. So we just don't know what that's going to look like.
The only question is how much and how awful and how many things can I break about it?
Right.
So.
Any further comments or questions? Thank you. Speaking for myself, I am comfortable with you handling the state issues and leaving the direct management to Kelly. I think that we like that. At least speaking for myself, I like that. I presume the rest of the board agrees with that. They're doing a wonderful job too, by the way.
Trying.
So moving on, reports from the board, general comments and questions from members of the board. Are there any of
Okay,
those?
I have one.
Please.
Okay. I went and had a tour of Rogue Retreat this last week or so, and I was pleased to see in two places, both at the Kelly Shelter and at the crossings, RVTD vans that had been given to them to help serve their mission. And I thought that was a little sense of pride that I had to see our organizations working so well together and helping each other out. So shout out to that. Good job.
Thank you. Anything further? Then turning then to reports from the board, I'll give you the Rogue Valley Council of Governments report. We had an interesting presentation by two members from La Clinica today. It's really interesting how much they've enlarged over the past few years. It's 30-some outlets. And another interesting thing is that in addition to performing services for the low income and general public, they also have a training program for PAs and nurse practitioners, which I think we recognize that nurse practitioners and PAs are becoming an important part of our medical system. And they're actually doing some major training for those kind of people. So that was all very, very interesting, and I was glad to hear about it. Next is NPO report. Tonya, does someone else have a comment on that?
I can provide a quick update. They did not have a quorum. They met yesterday, but we did not have a quorum, and so we did not convene our meeting.
Thank
That's
you.
a first.
Tradco report, Katrina.
I unfortunately wasn't able to attend, had a family emergency.
Would
come
you
up that
speak
day.
into the mic, please? I can't hear you.
Okay. I was unable to attend that meeting. They did meet. I had a family emergency, so I don't have anything to report. Did anyone else have the opportunity to attend?
So Kelly and I both attended the Tradco meeting, and Representative Wallem was there to kind of hear from the group about the transportation issues that are happening in our community. And so along with that, Malia from ODOT, which is their public affairs, Malia, I can't think of her last name. I know it, but it's eluding me right now. Anyway, she is their public affairs person, and she just kind of talked about the package in general. But one of the things that's really clear to me was that there's a big need, roads need in our community along with transit. And there is a group that is working diligently on that from here. So that's all I have to report.
Thank you. RV Act, Denise?
RV Act did not meet during this last session.
Thank you. I presume there is no executive session necessary today. Is there further business to come before this board? If not, it's declared adjourned.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for that update. I feel a little bit good